Caitlin Clark's viral jersey moment and Sophie Cunningham's unfiltered interview have ignited a fresh round of debate across women's basketball, touching everything from athlete authenticity and league leadership to fan expectations and burnout. What's your take on the Colts fever jersey moment and Cunningham's blunt commentary on the WNBA? Share your perspective in the comments. Follow for ongoing WNBA news updates, and subscribe to our newsletter to stay on top of the biggest stories in women's sports. The news cycle started with a simple promotional gesture. The Indianapolis Colts hosted members of the Indiana Fever during an NFL game and provided custom Colts jerseys as part of a routine cross-sport spotlight. Most of the Fever players participated in the on-site photo ops. Caitlin Clark, a native of Iowa and a well-known Kansas City Chiefs fan, chose not to wear the Colts jersey. She held it up for cameras and did not put it on. Clark did not publicly frame the decision as a declaration of loyalty to the Chiefs or as a snub to the Colts. But the internet filled in the blanks, praising the restraint and reading it as a subtle signal of authenticity. The clip moved quickly across social media. Fans called the rookie a real one, applauded the low-key defiance, and pushed the moment into the week's most shared women's basketball content. The reaction was immediate. Supporters admired the absence of a forced smile, the lack of a scripted performance, and the sense that Clark was comfortable setting boundaries in a crowded spotlight. For many, it was a refreshing example of athlete control in a league and a sports media ecosystem, often dominated by heavily managed appearances. Sophie Cunningham weighed in from Missouri during a relaxed appearance on the Show Me Something podcast. She wasn't at the Colts event, but after seeing the clip online, she praised the move without hesitation. In a segment that quickly echoed across sports feeds, she called Clark's choice awesome, adding that she hoped the rookie understood how powerful the small gesture was. Cunningham said she wasn't surprised, noting that Clark is constantly asked to wear, say, or endorse something, and that choosing to hold the jersey instead of putting it on felt honest, confident, and entirely in character. Cunningham's commentary landed because it aligned with her own public persona. She has built a reputation as one of the WNBA's most candid voices, willing to question leadership and address sensitive topics in plain language. That history is well documented. Earlier this year, she was fined after criticizing league executives, arguing that business decisions sometimes outpace basketball understanding. On the podcast, she did not walk any of it back. "I'm not going back on what I said," she told the host, while acknowledging that her delivery could have been cleaner. She added that swearing often leads people to dismiss her as uneducated, a perception she rejects, insisting that blunt language does not negate expertise. Asked directly whether she regretted her pointed remarks about the league office or Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, Cunningham didn't hedge. She said she stood by the substance, conceding only that the tone could have been different. That clarity, no PR polish, no retreat, continues to make her a lightning rod and a favorite among fans who value players speaking in their own voice. The interview also offered a candid look at workload, recovery, and emotional fatigue. Cunningham said she has not watched the WNBA Finals. "Hell no," she said, in what instantly became one of the most quoted lines of the week. She described being on a personal cleanse from basketball, the result of a season filled with injuries, relentless competition, and non-stop scrutiny. She framed the choice as a form of mental health maintenance rather than indifference, explaining that athletes often need distance in the immediate aftermath of a season. "Watching other teams chase a title so soon after your own campaign ends can be painful," she said, "and stepping back creates space to reset." That description resonated with players and fans alike, touching on a real and underreported part of professional sports: burnout. Cunningham's openness underscored a persistent tension between the demands of the WNBA calendar, external expectations placed on star players, and the constant visibility generated by social media. Her remarks invited a broader discussion about how the league supports recovery, the media's role in pacing the news cycle, and the importance of acknowledging athlete mental health without labeling it as weakness. Cunningham's praise for Clark connected to the same theme. She pointed out that the rookie's jersey moment was a small but striking example of setting boundaries under pressure. In a year where Clark's name has been attached to nearly every headline, brand partnership, and broadcast, the decision not to perform a gesture for cameras, however routine, felt deliberate. It was polite and calm, yet firm. Cunningham admired it as a demonstration of identity and control in an environment that often asks rising stars to be everything to everyone. The internet agreed. Caitlin Clark Colts jersey became a trending phrase, with clips and reaction posts dominating WNBA news feeds for days. The moment drew attention not because it was dramatic, but because it was measured. For a league working to strike the right balance between marketing and authenticity, it served as a case study in how understated choices can connect more deeply than staged ones. It also reinforced why both Clark and Cunningham carry such strong engagement power. Each is confident in her own lane, and neither is eager to bend for appearances. The podcast was not limited to hot-button topics. Cunningham also brought levity to a conversation that could have tilted toward pure controversy. She spoke about family time, joked about Aunt Duty, and laughed about catching baby fever. She revealed she had been home long enough to get bored, a rare luxury during the grind of a pro season. Then she pivoted to fashion. Yes, fashion, announcing plans to ditch her sweatshirt fits for winter, invest in a peacoat, and take a Christmas trip to New York. The sudden shift, from league politics to holiday wardrobe, didn't feel out of place. It read as a reminder that athletes are full people with interests beyond the court, a point often lost in the churn of sports discourse. That balance matters because it humanizes an athlete who is frequently defined by controversy. Cunningham acknowledged she had rushed her knee recovery at one point, removing a leg brace early despite medical advice, before being told she was ahead of schedule. She laughed at her own impatience. The update served as a quick check-in on her status heading into the offseason and showed the practical side of her approach. Confident, restless, and ready to get back to full strength, but with enough perspective to know when to pause the noise. As the interview returned to league governance, Cunningham reiterated a core critique. Many key decision-makers are excellent business professionals but not steeped in the basketball realities players face daily. The idea is not new, but her willingness to repeat it on record, knowing it drew a fine the first time, keeps the topic in the public sphere. The reaction was predictable and widespread. Supporters praised her for articulating what they see as a structural issue in women's sports, where marketing and growth initiatives sometimes overshadow the basketball product. Critics argued that public criticism risks undermining a league still scaling up, particularly at a time when national interest in women's basketball is surging. That tension sits at the heart of why the conversation around this interview has been so active. The WNBA is experiencing an audience boom, with rookie stars, record-breaking college carryover, and stronger national coverage driving visibility. With that growth come questions about messaging, player autonomy, and how much of the spotlight is healthy for the people actually competing. In this context, Clark's jersey decision and Cunningham's commentary function as touchstones for larger debates. Authenticity versus performance, mental health versus media cycles, and development strategy versus day-to-day player experience. It would be easy to frame Cunningham and Clark as rebels or outliers, but that oversimplifies the reality. The more accurate reading is that both athletes know precisely who they are and operate accordingly. Clark protected her identity as a Kansas City Chiefs fan and Midwest native without turning a routine NFL cross-promo into a spectacle. Cunningham used a national platform to reiterate concerns shaped by years inside the league, while also reminding fans that not everything has to be a fight. Between the quotes, the laughter, and the fashion notes, there was a clear through line. Professional athletes can be both fiercely competitive and deeply human. The social media conversation reflected that nuance. The jersey clip became one of the week's most shared WNBA posts. Commentary on Cunningham's "Hell No" line drew millions of impressions, with many current and former athletes echoing her description of postseason fatigue. Sports media shows debated the optics of Clark's choice and whether public praise from peers encourages more players to set boundaries on promotional asks. Meanwhile, fans of the Indiana Fever and the Indianapolis Colts traded lighthearted barbs about NFL allegiance, turning a potentially touchy topic into a largely good-natured exchange. Cunningham also addressed the responsibility that comes with her platform. She said she often speaks up because others cannot, whether due to contractual limits, fear of fines, or the risk of losing endorsements. "I represent a lot of people who don't say stuff, so I want to make sure I say it right," she explained. That admission was notable. It signaled an awareness of consequences without retreating from the substance of her message. In practical terms, it suggests the WNBA's conversation about leadership, player relations, and marketing strategy will continue to involve the athletes most willing to engage publicly, even when the talking points aren't comfortable. As the offseason unfolds, expect more attention on how the league manages star profiles, particularly as rookies like Caitlin Clark carry substantial national interest from college into the pros. The Fever remains central to that narrative, and regional crossovers, such as NFL WNBA activations with the Indianapolis Colts, are likely to remain part of the playbook. The jersey moment, minor as it looked, will inform how similar gestures are approached going forward. If authenticity is the metric fans reward most, giving athletes room to opt in on their own terms may be the wiser strategy. Cunningham's outlook on the months ahead sounds straightforward: rest, recovery, and reset. She spoke about booking vacations, spending time with family, and being deliberate about what she consumes until she's ready to lock back in. That approach mirrors what many elite athletes now describe as essential to longevity and performance. It also acknowledges a modern sports reality. A 24/7 conversation can engulf players unless they set firm boundaries. The larger takeaway from this week's news is less about a jersey and more about the shape of the WNBA conversation. Fans want candid voices. They want to hear athletes explain not just what happened, but why it matters to them. They want to see organic moments, like a player choosing not to wear a rival's jersey, without turning them into flashpoints. And they want to know that the league's growth plan accounts for the people who drive it, not just the numbers that quantify it. Caitlin Clark's decision not to wear the Colts jersey did not harm the event, and it didn't diminish the Fever's presence. If anything, it amplified the story by making it real. Sophie Cunningham's interview didn't just stir controversy. It provided context for why moments like that resonate in the first place. Together, they framed a news cycle that blended sport, culture, and the lived experience of modern athletes. As training ramps up and roster decisions take shape, eyes will stay on Indianapolis, on the Fever's development, and on how Clark navigates a growing national platform. They will also remain on Cunningham and other outspoken veterans shaping the public dialogue around the WNBA's future. That ongoing debate about leadership, authenticity, and the best way to build the women's game will be central to the league's next chapter. If you followed the Colts Fever crossover, watched the jersey clip, or listened to Sophie Cunningham's podcast segment, we want to hear from you. Do you see Clark's move as a sign of healthy boundaries or an avoidable headline? Do you agree with Cunningham's critique of league leadership and her candid admission of burnout? Join the conversation in the comments, share this report with fellow fans, and subscribe for continuing coverage of WNBA news, player updates, and the stories shaping women's basketball. In a week that started with a simple PR gesture, the WNBA found itself in a meaningful conversation about identity, agency, and how stars should be presented to the public. That conversation isn't a distraction. It's the work of a league growing into its moment, guided, loudly and quietly, by players determined to be themselves.